Greetings, Graham Warren, working with you on the Antico Cafe Greco case. This is a coffee shop located in Rome, near the Spanish Steps, one of the world's oldest coffee shops. Think of it as the museum inside of the coffee shop, as opposed to the coffee shop inside the museum. Um, Long history, a lot of famous people have visited this place. It's got currently 10 baristas who are serving 240 customers an hour at the Via Condiati location. So the actual location here, Via dei Condotti, sorry. So 10 baristas there, 240 customers, mostly tourists. They don't have good information about the customer demographics. There are some luxury shoppers, but mostly tourists. This is sort of this place has priced itself out of the market for locals, so not many of those. They also have an 11th barista who, on a rotating basis, so all 11 would at some point do the coffee cart duty. They have a coffee cart that heads out somewhere into Rome, at the option, well, the choice of the baristas, and there's some social media engagement. So it's a bit of a marketing play. Not going to work on calculations for the coffee cart. The owner of ACG, Carlo, is interested in some operational assessments and insights, as we'll go through. So you can Google this location. It's got a profile there for peak periods and whatnot. Varies by time of the year, day of the week, and so forth. You can see exactly where it is. This is the Vatican. Here's ACG. Here is the Colosseum. There's the Pantheon. Okay, and then you can also see some of the luxury retail sitting around this cafe location. It's got a rent problem, huge rent. But the focus of this case is not particularly financial or profit oriented. It is a consideration, but it's secondary. We're focusing here on the people component of the triple bottom line. So there are two pieces to this, the customer experience and the employee experience, and he's interested in both. You can also have a look at the menu. Prices are $7 to $10. We're only going to focus on caffeinated beverages in the case. The real menu of ACG does feature, a lot more than that, and costs are low. But again, that huge rent has to be covered. Okay, so with regard to the EX, he's got a question about how many baristas he's got. He doesn't want to underemploy them, because there you have sort of a sense that you're underutilized, and there are psychological elements around that. You may fear for your job if you know that you're standing around all day, every day. Also doesn't want to drive them past the burnout red line. So that's one of the active analysis pieces, points that you need to hit. Right. So that's the staffing. Also, what these 10 baristas that are serving the 240 customers an hour at the Via dei Condotti location are operating independently. So they each, serve a number of tables that are assigned to them. And so they see 24 customers an hour on average. When they serve, they serving using an automatic coffee maker known as a Clover Vertica, also just known as a Vertica, excuse me, as a Clover, and they knock these beverages out in 65 seconds average, so roughly 55 beverages an hour at full tilt. And then their standard deviation for each service is around 20 seconds. So we need to factor all that information. So one option is to pool all these 240 orders into a single customer queue and have the team serve the queue collectively. Amounts to more than just just the analysis, because they'd be moving from potentially having independent tip streams. Not a lot of repeat business here, so I don't think that there's sort of an established customer base, and that would sort of routinely tip and that they may want to hold on to those customers. I don't think that's the case here at all. But there is a difference between sort of being directly compensated through the tip stream for the tables that you serve versus participating in a tip pool that presumably would have to come along with the idea of serving a queue. So something to think about. One thing I haven't mentioned yet is these baristas can get training. Costs around €3,000. They'd be committing for 100 hours over about 15 weeks. It would really dress them up professionally pretty nicely. They would have latte art skills, leadership skills. They would be ahead. So if they do get the training, probably want to hang on to them because they would be a real asset. So not pushing them to the point of burnout and having them turn over. That would be a smart move. Reviews are a little mixed. Can check them out here. Got some Google and TripAdvisor reviews. And one of the alternatives that Carl is investigating is moving from these clovers, which coincidentally are the coffee makers used at Starbucks. So they are automatic, moving to a semi-automatic machine called a Victoria Arduino Venus. So it's this copper thing looking here. You get it in silver and gold versions as well. The clovers retail for about 11. These so-called VAVs, using the acronym, somewhere between 17 and 25. If you did switch out some of the clovers for VAVs, not clear what you'd get for the secondhand clovers. You could do a little research on that. And I think it's, some of the options would make the difference between 17 and 25. So you could see what you want there. They're semi-automatic. If so if the baristas were untrained and Carla decided to switch to these VAVs, then the standard deviation would move up from 20 to 35. But if in addition to getting the VAVs, he gets the training for the baristas, then the standard deviation drops below what you get on the clover, so it drops down to 10. Surprising. So just that's your variance piece. And really, Carlo needs something consumable, probably doesn't have an extensive background in queuing theory, so you need to present your results in a way that are consumable by him. You do need to use queuing models to come up with your proposal, or at least part of it. So the 4 lenses are important. Variance matters, utilization matters. So variance hurts, utilization matters, psychology matters, and pooling matters. So hit those points that he's looking to address. You also have access to a simulation model, clickable down here, and you can use that to corroborate maybe your analysis. So I'm going to do a little bit of analysis with you in the subsequent clips, but certainly not enough to surface a sort of final recommendation. Just basically talk about how to use the queuing analyzer, walk you through the simulation model, replicate those scenarios we analyzed with the queuing model, and that'll be that.